Welcome to this week's Workplace series. And today, let's talk about boundaries. Now, we all know what boundaries are. You might even coach some of your team members about the importance of finding and sticking to those boundaries. And yet, if you're honest with yourself, there are probably times that you quietly fudge the edges. It might be answering that late night email or just squeezing in one more thing on a Friday. Or perhaps it's you saying yes, when really inside, you just want to say no. It's easy to know that boundaries matter, but it's far harder to actually live every day according to those boundaries. Now, we know that there's plenty of reasons why boundaries are important, but why are they hard? Firstly, fear of consequences. We can worry that if we say no to something, someone might think that we're not committed or that it might hurt our chance at that next promotion. We can worry about letting people down. We can also find it really hard to say no, particularly if you work in an organisational culture that celebrates long hours. And of course, technology. Well, that just means your office now lives in your pocket and goes everywhere with you. Working long hours can look like commitment, but the research tells a different story. Economist John Penkerville at Stanford found that once people work more than 50 hours a week, productivity drops. Now, if you then push that up to 70 hours and actually get about the same amount of work done as someone who works 55 hours. So those extra hours aren't buying you more work, more productivity. They're just buying you more fatigue and less impact. Other analysis reported by the BBC found that long hours increase the risk of heart disease and stroke, and that people who regularly work 11 hours a day are far more likely to experience major depression. So this isn't just about feeling a little bit tired. It's about your health, your judgment, and your long-term effectiveness. Boundaries aren't just a nice to have. They're actually an integral part of your performance effectiveness system. Now, over the years, I've noticed that people who are genuinely good at setting boundaries and sticking to boundaries do a few things differently. So I'm going to share a few of them with you now. Firstly, they recognize that boundaries are about trust. So when you don't set a boundary, say yes to something that you really don't want to do, over time, that yes then leaves you feeling resentful, and the relationship can feel a little bit lopsided. Researcher Dr. Brené Brown talks about how boundaries are essential for building trust with both yourself and with other people. A clear boundary is not a sign that you're not committed. It's a sign that you're serious about the quality of the work that you do, of the impact that you're having, and what you're bringing to the table. Second, people who do this well, they get intentional. Now, recently I realized I was taking on just a bit too much in my business. And the uncomfortable truth was that a lot of it was actually self-generated. I'm one of those people who can come up with lots of ideas, and I also like change. So that to-do list was full of things that I had actually happily created for myself. I realized I really had to rein that in. And so I started using two key questions. Will doing this activity grow the business in the way that I want? If not, will doing this enrich my life? That second question matters because there are some things that don't necessarily move the business forward, but they absolutely enrich my life. It can be giving back, supporting others, doing something simply because it's meaningful or interesting or brings me joy. Now, they're my two questions. Your two questions might be different, but having that simple filter helps you very quickly decide, and without guilt, do I do this? Or do I not do this? It then lets you direct your energy towards the things that really matter. Third, they're really clear on those priorities. And that connects to that second point. Because it's not just work that fills our days. There's family commitments, community events, there's social expectations. And many of those are really worthwhile and also really important for our well-being because connection matters. But there are also some obligations that we've simply never questioned. So when you're clear on what matters the most to you, then it's easier to say no to the things that don't align with your values, your purpose. You're not just rejecting a request, you're also protecting a priority, something that matters to you. Fourth, they learn to say no kindly and clearly, because no doesn't have to be harsh. It can be something like, hey, thanks for thinking of me. I'm at capacity right now. Or that's a great idea. I'd love to be involved, but I don't have the capacity right now. Can we look at this later in the year? Also notice that sometimes a no can be final, but also sometimes your no might be no, just not now. Both are valid. And remember, some of your most important no's are the ones that you need to say to yourself. Fifth, they set and they communicate those simple guidelines and boundaries. It's not, no, I need to work less. It's like, hey, here are my working hours. And if you need me outside of those hours, this is what it looks like. You set that practice where you don't respond to emails out of hours. You have your phone away from the bed. Now, the other thing as well is write this down. That's really helpful. And then communicate it. Have a conversation with your team, with your colleagues, so they know what to expect. If you set a boundary and don't tell people, then they can feel potentially upset because somehow something's been missed. Lastly, and number 6, build those switch off routines. Use the technology mindfully. People who do this well protect time for rest, for movement, for activities that recharge them. And they accept that boundaries and sticking to them, it's a practice. Now, there's going to be times that you wobble and you'll sometimes answer that late night email or whatever it is. So the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Notice and celebrate those small wins. It might be that you've left work on time. It might be saying no to something where in the past you would previously have said yes. It could be putting your phone away from after dinner. These are boundary muscles, and every time you do it, every time you practice and notice, they'll get stronger. Boundaries matter because what they ultimately do is create that space for you to be at your best, not just for yourself, but for others. Dr. Seuss captured it so well when he said, when he worked, he really worked, but when he played, he really played. That's the invitation for you this week. Work with focus, rest with intention, and let your boundaries be the bridge between the two. Take care. Have a great week.